I'm recording and I'll record here.
Okay, so there we go.
Recording in progress.
There we go. 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 29th. I bring the study session for the Colorado City Metropolitan District to order.
Okay, first on is review of bylaws and updates. The last one I could find was 2015. Carolyn said she had a 2019 one, which you should do it every 3 years anyway. There was a few red lines that has changed in statute. I'd like the board to kind of just review. As she said, there's a couple of them that says, I know under the directors, this is going to have to be changed, that we're going to election now in November instead of May. So I think she missed that one, that we need to redo. She had another change with the oath of office, that it's per statutory update. She also recommended in having a vice president, which right now we use secretary as a vice president. But stating it as a vice, I don't know, it's up to you guys on that aspect. So here's where it was that it came back. Yeah, she did realize that it is in November now, that we only ran 3 years. But if you guys would go through this and look and give me some feedback, I need to go through it again too with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that she didn't make any changes other than what we wanted. I also included the 2019 one that was revised, so you can compare it to you two. But that's that. We'll have to have a motion or resolution to have that updated. But I would like the board to review it first before we do 2 weeks to do that. Before we can put it on, and we'll put it on next.
Any questions from the board?
Did she,
Go ahead, Bob.
did she include all of the resolution changes we made according to the architectural?
Where she's on that process now too, is I went through and what I had for resolutions that were added into laws and our rules and regulations, we're reviewing all of that now too.
How do we limit her time? She's going up on her billing and I don't trust her in the first place.
Well, she's the one that has the log in it, and that's why if we change lawyers, I want to get all that information and set and make sure
You're
that
already putting it together, so there's.
Yeah. That way we have it all up to date as of this year, and if anything this year we add, we can add into next year for rules and regs.
Anything else? All right, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, next, land sales, got an we sent out the, counter. They sent in a new, contract, counter, if you wanna say, but it's a new bid to it. As for lots 429 and 430 in unit 25. That's the two off of Kelly up here.
So it's a new contract though, right?
It's a new contract.
Okay,
They
I was gonna
offer-
say you can't counter a contract.
No,
Okay.
they wrote a new they offered, it was 5, we came on counted with 7, and they're offering 6.
I think we were low at 7.
I do too.
That's what that is.
Okay.
Next, we had dump truck. Bob or a couple meetings ago, he had a great idea when we start talking about the property fund. And, since we're building all these roads and we wanted to take a portion, it was like, well, why don't we just break that portions, give the water department 20, give sewer department 20, 5 for golf and 5 for, parks, and then the 50 from the roads, since we're going to be using our dump truck, building the roads that we need, that are scheduled here within the next 3 years. Give them out of the deal, so that way it would pay for that truck, the $22,000, and break it out that way, so that way it's still coming from, being paid for by all departments, and not going just the 22 out of the, enterprise fund into the roads. This way it's still, you're giving the money to the departments to cover that truck. I know within the last, 3 meetings, we've sold almost $30,000 worth of property within the last 3 weeks.
So what's your proposal?
Is to have the, property department donate $20,000, with 5% going to parks, 5% going to, golf course, 20, 20, and 50. The 20 being water sewer and the 50 being the
Roads
roads.
Department.
Yeah.
So you're proposing that we still break the purchase of the truck up into the different departments?
Into the different departments.
What you're proposing is that that's where we get the money is from the property enterprise fund?
Yes.
Okay. What's your, Bob?
And what I was saying was, we need to purchase the truck outright, and instead of, I can't remember the word, dedicating percentages, it probably got an hour meter on it, just bill it back to whatever department. Because we're already commingling funds in enterprises that will be using it. And we can't even get straight numbers in the departments we've got because of the way we're doing the books now.
So-
Just bill back, it's similar to the architectural. When we use Miss Christie, that her hours or whatever is billed to the, architectural committee. So your road grader will be owned by the Metro District. You can pay for it out of the property funds, no
You
problem.
mean dump truck?
Dump truck, and then just bill it to whichever department uses it by hour.
Did we not already decide on that?
I thought we did.
We decided, how was that decision? What was that decision?
Well, the auditor says that all municipalities, governments do that. They do a percentage, because you run into problems of, you're in an emergency situation, a lot of times you don't get that recorded times and things that need to be there.
So, but my question is, didn't we already make a decision on how to purchase that truck?
Well,
Did we already vote on that?
we didn't vote on it.
Okay.
We wanted to look at it, and we're at that point now that I believe, Aiden and Chris went over, got it out, they took it for a ride. He has a
Okay.
oil sample being sent in on it, even though they just changed oil, they took it for about an hour, got it heated up and stuff, so that way they could pull it.
If it's leaking fuel, they'll pick it up.
Yeah, so.
So what we need to do now is decide on how to purchase it and where it's at.
Yeah, and can I make a comment? The way that we are, allocating expenses to different departments or enterprises is the way that the auditor has agreed with, and it's never come up on an audit, so,
Which is based on percentages,
yeah.
correct?
Go ahead.
I know we've discussed this allocating before, but, I don't believe this auditor knows what they're talking about, and we've had trouble with their, audits, shall I say. This needs to be broken out so that every department knows what their bills are. We can't even, we have to come up by law with cost of service. That's another thing we'll talk about later, but you can't do cost of service by allocating. There's no true cost with allocating. You're shifting, load from one department to another. That, I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I think if the auditor says we can break it out, I mean, you cannot micromanage a truck or thing, doing so much paperwork that you wouldn't know where to find it. It's easy if it's done statewide. Why do we make it harder on ourselves? And I think we just take it out of the funds that we have and allocate it so it's there, and if the auditor has a problem with it down the road, then we change it. But I think the main thing is just buy the truck so we can start using it. That's, I value.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So, quite frankly, I don't care one way or the other, as long as it's legal. The auditor's saying that that's legal, and which one's easier?
Probably the allocation.
Allocation.
Is easier, and the auditor's saying it's legal.
That every municipality runs that way. Like I said, the only other way you can do it, and it's allocated that way, is they'll have a, vehicle
Log,
enterprise. They'll have a vehicle enterprise, and everybody's allocated from your different departments so much money to go into that enterprise to pay for those vehicles
and repairs are gonna be handled the same way as the vehicle's allocated?
yeah.
So if we have a $1,000 repair, we're gonna take it from each department according to the percentages of ownership?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, I yield.
Any questions? So Jim, your question there for discussion was kind of, is it okay for us to take the money from the enterprise
Yes.
and donate it to these others? That's what we need to
Allocate
vote
it that way.
Yeah.
on. Okay,
And it will take, Mr. Chairman, Mayor, it will take a resolution to allocate the money.
right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I just wanted to know which path we're going and how to get there, and that's,
Okay.
We need to do that, we need to add that to the agenda.
well, I have dump truck property fund down there. I just don't have a resolution typed up for it. I
Okay.
just wanted to run by the board first. Okay, dam update. Last week, Mr. Coulter was in on the Cowarn. We had a disaster plan meeting that lasted pretty much all day. Went through different scenarios in a water situation, kind of like what we did through July. So it was very informative and all of that. Well, within the meantime, I was able to get in touch with Chuck, which is our EOM for this area, looking at FEMA funds for the dam, that we're gonna sit down. Their setup is due, I believe, in June, so we're gonna get together beginning of April here and have a meeting with them the 11th and set it up as to how we can put this money into their FEMA disaster plan. Because since it being under a non-compliance issue, we can get FEMA money for it. So that's one of the things that we're gonna be working with him with. I have dealt with Colorado Conservancy District. I have a meeting with him next week over $50,000 for the survey. I have a meeting with, that day that it snowed here real bad, we canceled our meeting with DOLA, so we rescheduled that. I'll be talking to Tara more on that. I just got 2 notices, one from Hickenlooper and the other one is the other senator, Connor.
Bennett.
Bennett,
Yeah.
that I'll be putting in $40 million grants for water line for our AC lines, dam, gap system, all of that. So we're on the process of trying to get funding for all of these things through the infrastructure bill and through Congress and all of that. So we're working on it. I figured I'd give you an update on the dam there. CCAAC,
So before you leave the dam survey, where are we on the dam engineering,
Mike and I have been getting together, and that's what we're talking with, Mr. Stern, who is the representative for the Conservancy, Water Conservancy District for Colorado. He's the one that said we have $50,000. Well, right now he's saying, well, it sounds like you're going for all these grants. We don't wanna pay for the survey, so we're gonna talk to him a little more. And
and,
I'll have a meeting with him next week.
and time-wise, I mean, we can't keep putting that.
No,
off,
we're
because
not
that-
putting it off, it's in the process of moving forward. It's, Mr. Graber and I will be talking with Stern and getting it straightened out as to
As far as
their
a
funding.
deadline or a time for, I guess, for them to start doing that, when is reasonable to expect that?
I'm looking probably the end of May to hopefully have all the funding in place to do it.
End of May to start the engineering
Yeah.
study of the dam?
Set up and going.
If I may.
Go ahead.
So do we have a backup if these guys decide they don't want to? Because we've gotta get that done.
I know, and that's one of the part with FEMA, when I talked to FEMA, our EOM, we're gonna see if they have funding right up front for surveys, which I know they do through the infrastructure bill.
So we may have a backup if they
Yeah.
back out on
Yeah.
this. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, next is CCAAC.
We have, 4 first letters, 3 third letters, and 1 authorized structure, and we have, a bill that, the East Jefferson, the shed that we looked at and recommend approval on that. And recommend approval on the first, third, and unauthorized structure letter.
We also have, a request for survey funds.
Oh, that's great, yes, we need to, the CCAAC needs to be able to get survey, and that sounds like it's gonna, not just a letter, a professional letter, but actually survey, to protect, the surveyor, the company. They feel like that there would be liability if they just gave a professional letter without doing survey. So, we're looking at probably $300 for the survey. He's willing to do 1 survey, free, basically the one out in the south part of town. And, if we have him do a couple other surveys for trespass issues on the green belt. So we need to be able to be authorized, the CCAC needs to be able to be authorized to spend $300 per survey, and we probably have to consider putting a limit on how many at a time or how many to do. There's quite a bunch of them. We don't wanna be doing it all at once and authorizing that much money.
We have money in the CCAC account, right?
Yes.
If you go to, your yellow section, section 6, the last 5 pages of your financials, you have, a breakdown of what was spent, what was added.
That's just
And-
what in there, yeah. May I speak on this?
Go ahead.
You know, I don't think we're actually asking for anything more than 300 at this time. We've, got a discussed, plan, with the surveyor. He likes what we're doing, so he's offered to do one of the 2 for free. And we only need 1 at this time. There will be other times, but the CCACC can always come back and request when you need a survey. When we do the surveys, we don't need them immediately. Generally, it's an ongoing issue. So I would see no problem in asking for any more than the 300 at this time, because we're only contracting for 1 survey, even though we're getting 2.
I would suggest that we ask for
That's
2.
fine. That's,
That we ask for 600.
So if I may.
Go ahead.
the survey money is recoverable,
No, not in this.
is it not, from the defendants if they lose?
No, this is a trespass. We can't
Okay.
trespass somebody without absolute knowledge that it's on our property. Now, we know by looking at it that most of it's on our property. Here's the issue. This particular one, we're told, I've been personally told by a neighbor of the party that the gentleman went out and moved his property stakes, and that's why he's claiming it's on his property. And we do know that at least part of the vehicle is on his property, but 90% of it is on Greenbelt. And we could go in right now and trespass it, and might be okay. But if you go in front of the court when he says, you're on my property, we better have our ass covered on this one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have no problem, every meeting we have, you just come in and say, we have the survey coming down,
Right.
can we have the funds to pay for the survey? I have no problem with that, it makes sense.
Any other questions or comments? That's it for the study session. Go to the study session, open the regular meeting of the Board of Directors, Call City Metropolitan District, at 6:22 on March 29th. If you join the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as you go through, if you join in a moment of silence. Thank you. Let the record show that we have a full quorum, all board members present. And can I get an approval of the agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda at this time.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes?
I make a motion that we approve the study session of March 8th, the regular meeting March 8th, and the CCAC minutes meetings March 10th, 17th, and 24th.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Go ahead, Jim, bills.
Yeah, the second set of bills that came through, they're present. Is there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Mayor. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
That set of tires in there seems quite expensive. And it also, I think this, as always, we're going to have to knuckle down on the spending.
We
And
did,
shopping.
he did shop them. He did shop them with Vigo and Pueblo. He used Peerless. There was a $20 difference between the tires, mounting and balancing. That's why we chose here. For the $20, I believe it was worth it, because if he has a flat or rotating them, they do it for nothing here.
Gas and time of the employee too, just taking it in.
There was, I've seen all three quotes for it.
I make a motion we approve the bills as presented.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Let's pay the bill. Okay, Jim, financial report?
Financial report, we had our crypto, or not crypto, what would be? Colorado Water Rural Power District loan that we have. It's due, we'll have it paid in 2024. We got a letter stating that we didn't meet our covenants, which we showed them that we did. They came back, that's why you have a letter there in front of the financials stating that our debt ratio is at a 110%, which qualifies for all of it. So we're moving back in the right direction, that we have reserves to cover our debts. Where in the past, that did not happen.
So if I may.
Go ahead.
So basically, they miscalculated,
Yes,
sent us a nasty gram telling us we weren't following our rules,
yep.
and then we recalculated and
We
sent
showed-
back and told them we were doing it, they were wrong.
Yep, and they said, yeah, we did it wrong.
Okay, thank you.
So, that's how it ended up.
The graph here for the February 28th, we're still showing quite a loss.
If you look at last year's, you were only about 10,000 difference from last year. That's part of when we refinanced and our loans being upfront now in the beginning of the year, which we end up making it back up throughout the year. Does-
$200,000 bond payment.
Yeah. We just made a $200,000 bond payment to,
So that's a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments, questions? Go ahead, Jim.
okay. Next, I kind of gave you administrative report as to, I know a lot of it is basically stuff that is on the old business side of it. I'll pull it up. Like I said, some of the things that's being worked on is $40 million grant through the Senator fundings for next year, looking at FEMA, Colorado Water Conservancy District, DOLA. We did get okayed for ARPA funds of 3.7 for the 2 miles of water line and tank rehab, which we're in the process of the engineering and getting yet to get out and ready for bid. Dump truck was inspected, driven by crew, was in good shape, no major issues were noted, and test drive and oil sample was taken, but just had an oil change recently. Apple Park is in the process of coming together, waiting for gravel to apply base frame, wheat fabric, getting the price together for mulch and or rubber fall protection. Neptune, I've talked to Joey probably twice, 3 times within the last 3 weeks. He is working on trying to get us a spreadsheet and stuff for the board. He is working with his guys. I need to call him back again tomorrow. Been making it kind of a weekly Wednesday regular deal, calling him on it. I did talk to Mr. Finger about property sale because I thought we were gonna get into issue with the ones that we sold, the big properties. He gave me advice saying that there was all 3 conditions met, so he felt comfortable that we went ahead with it. So we went ahead with the property sale of that $9,000 per lot over the other one. Dual well, talked to Richard last Thursday. He said that he knows that they were supposed to be here. He said they didn't have some of the parts and stuff coming in. He was supposed to get back to me either today with the scheduling, and he didn't at this point. I'll call him tomorrow. We also received $125,000 from CTF funds for the pole this year to do some upgrades. Josh and I, we sat and talked about it. We might wait until after season, because it isn't that bad. We got the boiler running good and all of that. But wait until after the season, because we're gonna have to probably tear up cement to get to the skimmers and things like that. So instead of trying to do it before the season and get it in a rush to do it, to wait until after the season and get it.
We got a month, we got 2 months, right?
Yeah, because right now, he's gonna probably have to start filling this next month, and then he'll, have to get the temperature up to do his training and all of that in May. So, this way it's already full, and we can do our cement cuts and stuff, whoever we hire to come in and do it, and we're looking for pull companies right now that would do the work. Because we're looking at a boiler and fixing skimmers that have been leaking, that we're losing water out of the pool. Also, we have an intake line that goes into the pool that it is leaking, and it's gonna be under the cement, so we can get it all done at the same time. Grader was broke down in the last couple of weeks. If you noticed it, it was on Corner Verde. Aiden was taking it up after the snowstorm before last, and that's when he started to hear a squall and lose a little power. So he pulled it off there at Corner Verde and didn't want to go any further. Seems that the turbo had blown in it, or bearing in the turbo went bad. So got it back down to the shop, and they are repairing it now. There was some issues with some broken studs in the head where the turbo hooks into. Felt that it was better that we had somebody come in and do it than ruin the head or whatever. So we're in that process of getting it going. And also, I think injector was going out in it too, wasn't it?
Mhm.
And they were going to fix that at the same time as doing all of this.
Yep.
Okay, so that's where we're at with the grader. Wrapping up water loss issues with the dial issues within Billy's program that have been here since past administration. Yvonne and Christie have been a big help, and we're able to locate the errors, which were increased water revenues. It should increase water revenues probably this year by $50,000 to $70,000 over the year. So it's something that we're finding little things here and there as to what's happening. Yvonne did a lot of work in trying to figure out where it was, and that's some of it. Election have reviewed the property owners list with Neil, helped reducing from 15,000 owners to sending out about 2,700 letters to property owners that are not registered to live in town. They can be, where they can request a ballot. I had Neil and Harry in here today helping stuff envelopes. They're ready to go out for in the morning. I'll be taking them up. Continually answering emails, calls, drop-in visitors on property issues and our covenant issues, constant communication to residents through Facebook, making sure website is up to date, or answering if questions are asked. Continued communication with CDPHE, we're staying in line with compliance issues as well with our engineers to help with issues over the last year. Do have a meeting with them at 9 o'clock in the morning with Gary, I, and Greg to continue this communication as where we're going. Attending Zoom meetings with Provo County. Provo County means business, co-warn disaster plan, grant classes for infrastructure bill, and other meetings with state. Contacting of employees weekly with the need to resolve issues or offer ideas of solutions of day-to-day operations. Water right issue, I talked with Flemings. Gutierrez did sell their property up there, so I'm trying to find out who the new owner is. They will not sign the contract until they get through with their lawyers. their lawyer's looking out to see whether they have the right, which I know we have the rights with that. So, they said they would not sign the contract until they get the lawyer, so.
Just wait for their lawyer to tell them.
Yeah, and that's kind of a review of what's happened within the last 2 weeks with me.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, go ahead. I just wanna say, that's really helpful to me.
Okay, would you like something like that
Yeah,
all the time?
absolutely.
We can do it on a weekly basis if you want, send it out in an email.
Not weekly, every meeting
Every meeting, okay.
would be awesome to me anyway.
I delete a lot of emails.
Especially for me.
Go ahead, Don.
You know, it's a nice report, but it's wrong. I have a whole stack right here of emails and documents from the state. We are not in compliance, like you said. We're actually failed the last quarter. We did not get our engineering report in on time. That's why there's going to be a meeting. There's many other issues. So you need to take into everything. You're not getting the whole truth. Now, I'm not gonna pick it apart on everything, but just this one part, I can absolutely back it up with documents. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Can I respond to that, Mr. Chairman? The report that the engineer sent in, it was sent in on time, and before time. The thing is, they did not accept it. They did not like their answers. It was not the way they wanted it. So they redid it. They gave them until the 30th. They sent in another report last week, which they still don't have all the basic figures that they need. The engineer could not get tied down to the true numbers. So it was put in. We are still having a meeting tomorrow to discuss this and how we want to address it more. So it is in the process, working back and forth with the state as to get us into compliance.
And this is the engineer that's writing this stuff, correct?
Yes.
The state engineer.
No, our engineer.
Oh, our engineer.
Our engineer going to.
Graber.
No,
This is through Josh Cook.
no code.
Oh, gotcha.
And that's not the only issue. We failed water tests for the last quarter as well. One of the issues in here that was pointed out was it's supposed to be posted at standpipe. I notified the manager on Thursday. It was not posted. It's still not posted. There's other issues.
It
Can I
was.
speak a second? What's up?
Go ahead.
2 weeks ago, I came in and Gary made me sit down at a meeting. Another engineer from another company, and they were looking at solutions, and just sat here, and I just sat there and listened to Gary and Jim and the engineer come up with plans about upgrading our water plant and filters and things and a whole bunch of stuff. And he wanted a bunch of information from Gary and Greg. And he got the stuff and came back the next week, and I listened to him again. And Gary Galloway knows a heck of a lot of stuff. He and that engineer were talking the same language. Our city manager knows a lot of that stuff too, because they just deal with that stuff. I just sat there and listened. The man isn't gonna do it because our engineer and he are good friends. I mean, they know each other. But he gave us a different picture of what else can be done to upgrade the pre-filtering and all that stuff with our lake and the dual well and a whole bunch of things. And for an old man like me, I even learned a lot from those guys without knowing anything beforehand. And I was impressed with what I heard. And I was disappointed that the man did not do it without a lot of money up front. Because if we get the grants and stuff to do things, will come out of that. I mean, he'd get paid, but he wanted upfront money. So they're working on a lot of things to get our water system up to date. And I'm glad I stayed on the meetings. very informative. I yield.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I'd like to respond to that, Harry. A month and a half ago, I requested from our water department the delegation plan. I requested the SOPs. I requested the monthly operating reports and other items. Not a single piece has been delivered. I've talked to the state, they don't have them. These documents were required since 2012. Now, I don't care what engineer sits down, if I can't get the information, he can't get the information. It comes from the same people. So not all the information is out there, and if you want to dig through these emails, we've got violations at 2018 in here.
But
It's
see,
there.
but that stuff is all history. We're trying to move forward and get things
You're
straightened out.
right.
And the men are doing, they're talking to the people they need to talk to, and I think the report's gonna be coming pretty quickly, I believe.
All right, so,
Yeah.
moving on. right?
Yes, just move on, I'm sorry.
Jim, I think this, like Terry said, I think this is very helpful. Now, one thing I also really thought of is that the item number 12 probably isn't deep enough. About CPHE and, as far as how we're doing on our violations and
Well-
what we're doing about the water system.
And a lot of that was even, Greg can add to that, I brought it up in the Cold War, and CEHP was in on that call. There was 5 of them, Tyson, all the guys that were basically helping us when we went through the emergency deal. And even Kyra, she came back and she says, yeah, we did do that. And that was, I told them, yeah, they hauled water from Pueblo, put it in our tanks, which ate our chlorine, which caused our levels to go up. And she says, yeah, it did.
So I
And
guess
that's
maybe
where-
kind of might, that item 12 on there as far as being deep enough, is that we probably ought to, because we've all received violation reports in our water bills.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably ought to have a bit more of a description in there as to why.
Okay.
And how that's happening and those things. But other than that, I think this is quite helpful.
Well, there was in the water bill though that we received last time, there was a decent description of why.
But we still have,
It was fair.
we gotta get on top of it.
Mr. Chairman.
But, yeah, I would definitely agree that we need better communication with the public.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I spoke to the state and they don't agree with the why that was posted. That why was only for a month or so. We're still failing.
Because they average it over the whole year.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're still
And
failing
we were-
dailies.
And we were out that much within 2
You're still
weeks.
failing. And it's because you failed a number of times that you failed the quarterly.
Now, you look at your quarterlies, in the past 2 quarters, we were way under what was regulation.
Okay.
It was that 1 quarter.
Moving on, I'm gonna.
Be nice statement.
I'm gonna kind of, diverge here. Mr. Coulter, do you have any comment?
Oh, sure.
We're sorry, Greg.
You decide to speak if you want to do your demeanor first.
While we're on that, yes, I'll read the bad one first, and then we'll. All right, statement of conduct and demeanor.
Be nice.
In order for the business of the board to be conducted in the most effective and expeditious manner, it is necessary that all persons present maintain a demeanor of civility toward the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute your forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by council or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson, or, upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authority. Ms. Bolton, it's your turn.
Well, it's still fresh.
Actually, don't hit you.
Well, go for it.
Oh, well, thank you. Everything y'all talked about is what I'm gonna be here to talk about too. I mean, everything from the trucks down to the budgeting and everything else. And what I'm thinking, what I'm gonna do here, and I'd like to work with the board on this, but I think it's time for a public outreach. And Terry, I'm gonna kind of make it into a newspaper type article at this time. And it's gonna look somewhat like this. And kinda hang
No,
out.
it'll look better than that.
And I found out how hard it is to make that work, by the way, so I don't know if it's gonna look like that. But really, and to let y'all know where I came from, I was called down here in 2015. I've been working with Greg. I talked to him for 10 years before I even came down, because y'all were running out of water and everything else, and so I talked to Greg, found out all your problems, and came over here and decided to help. And man, I saw all the issues you had, and you had filters, and I was kind of glad when I left here, because it was a lot of problems. And what this outreach will do, it'll actually go and talk to the public. And these are serious issues, because this is the first flyer that's going out. I really think that we're going to be the next Milwaukee or Flint, Michigan here. And is everybody familiar with that? Milwaukee, boy, when was that? Back in '93. Their filters had NTU violations, and it got through, and the cryptosporidium got into the water. 400,000 people got sick and 100 died. And Flint, Michigan went on for years. They changed their water sources, and it was the water. And they knew about it, and they changed the testing, and they had some high tests, and they didn't put those in their average. Just like we were saying, you know, we're having that one bad test, and that's when the organics are high. What are the rest of it? Well, that test costs a couple of $100, right, Gary?
Yeah, probably, a little less.
Yeah. And so you don't want to test for it every day, but you can test for your total organics. It runs you about $3 when you do it in-house. And then you know what total organics you'll fail at. And this is what I think the people need to know. And to know that, yeah, it is really a health violation, and they can get sick. And I copied a few of the CCRs that come out annually that'll tell about your violations and your deficiencies. And don't mean to criticize anybody on this. Our job is to find out how to make it better, but they aren't good. And I've been doing this 30 years now, and I've never seen it change like it has in the last 10 years. The rules and regulations are difficult. They've changed. Everything's electronic now. So that means you have to be good on a computer. You have to know when the report's on. And 2016, the violations were monitoring for NTUs. That ring a bell? Goes back to Wisconsin there, when they all got sick. And also the calibration in the log records, SOPs, and they were all written down, and they're supposed to be done, and the monitoring plan is supposed to be done. And here they all are, marked in red. 17, failure to monitor. 18, enforcement monitoring plan. And like I say, on that 18, we were supposed to have the engineering done. Well, you can't get the engineering done until you get the financing done. You gotta know what the hell you're buying. That isn't a bad word. But you gotta know what you're buying, and you gotta put the bid in for that. So there, you need an engineer who's gonna come and help you with that to get those bids in. Trouble is, it's changing so quick. But we need the public behind us, because what they're gonna see is the cost of water skyrocketing. And I think you got some great plans. Y'all have come a long ways. You got monitoring, automatic meter reading now. So no longer do you have to take the crew out, spend a week reading meters. No way you can get an accurate water loss. And yeah, you get new meters. The software
It's exactly what these guys are going through, reporting. And it's difficult, and it takes time, and you gotta learn it. And the trouble is every system down below here, all these small systems are all having the same issue. And so this public is what I wanna get involved in it. And I want to work with them, not to have them, yelling at you or saying, why don't you do this? But know what you're going through. And in that way also, you can monitor where your time and your money is spent, and you can show cost of service for water. Go out and find an A operator now. What do you think you're gonna pay for them? Does anybody know?
We can't afford them.
Can you find them?
And you can't find them.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta bring them back from the dead.
We got one, but you can't, no.
Right. And Gary, it's not, I don't mean to criticize you on any of this.
Well, you're kind of scuffing over a lot of stuff too. But I'll let you say what you want to say.
Okay. But there should be no more monitoring failures, NTUs and calibrations. If there is it a time? I mean.
No, and that happened and it's been corrected.
Okay.
So all the MORs are turned in on time. They're all in there. So the state knows that, or they would call me right away and let me know they don't have it. So they're all in there, they're all up to date.
Right. And this is going back to 17, 16, 19.
They're all in there, they're all up to date.
And as you see, the rules are changing. The lead and copper's coming back.
Right. And we've never had an issue with lead and copper.
I think we've had this talk too, is, when they first put in this plant, it was supposed to be state of the art, all of that, right? That this was the up and coming, these filters will do everything for you. Well, that was when they built it. Well, they're realizing now, because there's other plants that have this same setup, that they're having the same problems too. So that's why we're looking at not just one process, because the DAP system is supposed to be the new up and coming, and it's supposed to be the best. And that's why I look at it as there's other options out there too. We need to, because I've known other systems that have been tried and true that are old systems as sand filters and things like that they haven't changed. Yeah, you might change the materials in it every 5 years or 10 years down the road, depending upon your biological. And that's it, is, I think we're at that point where, we have one engineer telling you we need to go this way, but in the same aspect of it, there is other things out there, and that's why we asked this other engineer, hey, what do you recommend for us, and things like that. So that way we have an open mind to handle, okay, is it gonna be better to go this way or this way? What is tried and true that's gonna handle our situation? So that we aren't looking another 5 years down the road, oh, we gotta change everything again, to meet regulations.
Okay, let's let Mr. Colby finish his presentation.
And Jim brings up a good point. And this is what we need to tell the public. Another thing we need to tell the public, in my opinion, is have a plan. The dam, here is the cost of this dam. And don't be afraid to give them, this is what it's gonna cost. This is why we're gonna do it. We won't have the water. So, because we were late, and because it was due in 18 and we're just now getting to it, and they will give you loans. They don't wait for an emergency. But you gotta file for them. And you gotta have the engineering reports before you can file it, because he's got the cost. And you better do that quick, because everything now is escalating in construction. And this is what the public would love to hear, is more about that. You're still gonna have to put the violations letters out, but everybody I've talked to, oh yeah, those, I just thought that was more scratch paper. They become immune to them, which surprises the CDPHE, because they were hoping the public would come out and support you. And the public, once you give them a plan, give them the cost, then when the board has to say, this is the cost, because you're getting a new truck, you gotta fix that grader out there, then they'll understand. And we're doing the same thing. I took over up in Rod, and that plant needed a lot of work, and we got everything going right now. The only thing we're gonna put a membrane, filter in front of the membranes to get rid of the organics is that. And it's already designed and ready. And it took less than a year, plus we fixed tanks, and now we're getting all of the distributions and lines
Cause that was,
GIS.
that was ML GIS that we put in, and we're at that point where we're marking points when we have a break, so we know exactly where that line is and how deep it is. We just go right through the computer.
All right. And sharing this with the public would be a great thing. That this is what we're tracking, and this is the cost. And that's what I would like to work with the board on, to make sure that we're not saying, oh yeah, he ran over this hydrant and it cost us this much. Make it positive, make it good.
Thanks, Greg. Anybody else on?
That was it.
Okay, do we have an attorney? Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, I don't have an attorney's report. Next would be agenda items. Like I said, you had a property proposal, for those two pieces of property. They countered, or it was kind of the counter compared to, but it's a new offer of $6,000 for each property.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion at this time to counter their proposal at $7,500 per lot.
I have a motion, anybody second? Motion dies.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion at this time that we, counter them at $7,000 a lot as we did last time.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
I got a second, for discussion? I guess I have a question as discussion. The hesitance on the $6,000 per lot is because, for what reason? Because they have water and sewer and
$7,000 a lot is a bargain. In my opinion.
And they didn't take it, that's why I made it.
They got water, sewer, but I'm not quite so callous as Director Cook as to raise it on.
all right, I have
Wouldn't do the first time.
any other discussion? Let's vote. The motion on the floor is to counter at $7,000 a lot. Mr. Hoxer, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
No.
Chair votes no. Motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to counter at $7,500 per lot.
I have a motion $7,500. Do I have a second? Motion dies.
I make a motion that we keep it $6,000 a lot.
I have a motion $6,000. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for $7,000 a lot.
I'll second that motion.
Wait, we have the motion died.
Oh,
The
sorry.
motion that Mr. Hoxett floated did not get a second, so it dies. And go ahead with your motion of $7,000 per lot.
Yeah.
Do I have a second from Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Any other discussion?
How much is it now?
Seven.
7. What it was to begin with.
$6,990, man. The original one.
The original one.
The original.
Okay, so let's vote on the The motion on the
Who would have
floor
known and drawn a new contract would make things
for
so
$7,000
difficult.
a lot. Mr. Hochstetler?
I still vote no.
Mr. Kraus?
And I still vote yes.
I vote yes.
Mr. Cook?
Present.
Oh my goodness. Really? We got,
All right, I'm gonna vote yes. So the motion passes. Let's get this off the table.
let's move on, please.
Okay, the next would be the dump truck, property fund, what we talked about, if, using the property fund to, purchase it through the 5 different entities.
I make a motion that we, purchase the truck through the,
Donate the money.
the road fund, and we make a resolution to distribute that to all the 5 departments.
I would like to amend Mr. Hofstadter's motion.
But before you do, I guess, restate your motion if you would.
The amount is what, 22,000?
Yes.
I make a motion that we purchase the dump truck out of the roads, fund and distribute it to the 5 departments to the percentages we presented in the, that they're presented.
So,
Can I
make,
clean up his
Yeah,
motion?
clean it up. Go ahead.
Can I clean up his motion?
Yes, go ahead.
See if it is. I believe Mr. Hochstatter would like to have the dump truck paid for by the property fund, but it would be, the property fund would distribute it between the 5 departments to pay the 22,000.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead, I made a motion to amend. I understand Mr. Hochstetter's motion, he's in order. I would ask that we amend that to have the property fund, I don't know the correct term from the finance department, but we need to withdraw the 22,000 from the property fund and allocate it to the road department.
It's a transfer.
Sure. I don't think it's just a transfer, it has to be part of the resolution to appropriate, that's what I'm looking for. We
Appropriated
need
to
to
each
appropriate
funds
the
as
22,000.
specified.
Correct.
It's
We'll
a group
appropriate
motion,
22,000.
and it's gonna come really good when you're done.
Mr. Chairman, I also call for a reading of the motion.
Christie, you have
So, amends that the property fund to be reallocated to the road fund and then go within the finance.
Appropriated from
Appropriated,
from property to
Yes.
roads.
Does that make sense?
actually to 5 departments, not just roads.
Yeah.
So we're
right, well,
appropriating
it's so appropriated to
money.
the road fund that would be distributed
the
through the 5
allocation.
entities.
And then, as Mr. Hochstetter stated in his section of the motion, he's allocating to the
Yeah.
5.
Gotcha.
All right.
So that allocation will be 50% to roads, 20 to water, 20 to sewer, 5 to golf, and 5 to parks and rec.
Parks and Rec.
Okay,
I'll second the team's
moved and
motion.
seconded. Discussion. Let's vote. Mr. Cook, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstetler?
Yes.
Unanimous, the chair votes yes.
Don't have
Now,
any
do we have to
votes.
get a resolution, a motion for a resolution?
No, we
No,
have
no.
We just did that.
That was,
We
that
just did
was
that.
That
that.
was part of it.
Yeah.
And I'll, so it's passed, so once I get the resolution together, they can sign it, and we're good to go.
Okay.
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 You have to replay the tape 10 times.
Old business,
Old business. Like I said, went through most of it, Covenant's lawyer. I have been talking with Pueblo West on some of the different issues. If you guys have an issue from CCAC that you need to ask, we can email him and he'd be willing to answer.
And charge?
It's a friend deal. So you don't wanna overload him,
Be
but
careful we don't abuse it.
yeah. But if there is something that is a covenant issue, he would be willing to.
Good.
Cause it might be a situation that they've run across themselves and it would be easy for
All
them.
right?
Dump truck, got that, Applewood Park, we're in the process of getting that. It's finally starting to dry out, hopefully we can get to it next week. Cameras for plants, I know we had another bid coming back, and he didn't give it to me today. Water lease, I gave you an update on it. Water loss update, yes, we found some of it, we're increasing our revenue by about 70,000 this year from some of the things that we found, but yeah, we're still digging into other areas too. That's to it. Dual well, like I said, they're waiting for parts to come in. I don't know whether it was the liner or what, but he didn't give me, he's supposed to be calling me back to give me an answer on that with scheduling.
So,
Go ahead, I yield to you, Carl.
on the dual well, so he's not giving us any, not giving us any answers as to when yet?
Not quite yet. He said I know he had a backup in parts and with scheduling, and I said, well, you need to let me know when or where. Are we still in the schedule to do this? And he says, yes, you are. He says,
Where at in the schedule?
that's what I asked him. He was calling his guy that does the schedule to find out, and he never called me back, so I'll call him back first thing in the morning.
I yield.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to touch on something under old business that,
Before you do, if I can interrupt you, is that's it for dual well discussion?
That's the only
Yeah,
question I
we're
have.
just waiting for it.
But the thing with the dual well is, if he doesn't have the parts, that thing would probably be like a geyser, so you have to make sure he has all the parts there, because if he opens that thing up,
We just need to put him on.
yeah, he needs
On
to pressure to get it
Give some
going.
time.
Get it going and give us a time frame.
Yeah.
I realize nothing
well,
was perfect.
we've been given time frame after time frame.
Well, but it's them though, it's not us, it's them.
Well, we have a contract, we need to get them on it.
Well,
Let's move on. Go ahead.
The water meters have come up, I don't know where we're at on the number installed, but I'm not worried about the number at this meeting as much as when I found out that these water meters installed were not all installed correctly indexed. So I would make a motion at this time to instruct the manager to have every one of the new water meters properly indexed.
Okay, motion on the floor. And a second.
I will second that one just for discussion purposes.
Move and second, we're in discussion.
So, if I may,
Go ahead.
so what would be involved in indexing these meters, making sure that we've got them correct? Since
And that's what we're doing now, and it goes through the report that Christie gets, am I right?
Well, no, we have that report, so updated.
Yeah, and basically when they went through and checked all these dials and stuff, we went through all of that to make sure that our dials were matching up with our meter sizes. The only ones that we're
Correct.
having problems with right now is our larger meters, which we have 9 of them out there, that we're working with Casell and Neptune to try and get it where they will be auto read, because they're telling us that a 9 dial is not capable for our system, right?
It's not, cause
capable of
Casell
doing
is
it through Neptune.
compatible with it, but Neptune is not compatible with a 9, they only go up to 8 on the dials.
So we're trying to get that straightened out, which that's also part of what Joey is looking into to make sure. So we have 9 meters out there that aren't properly indexed, basically.
So what, but back to Mr. Collins' question about what would it take to
Mr. Chairman, may I?
audit all of them? Does somebody have mandatory, physically, what does it take?
We can pull either the meter size probably out of Casell and match it up with the spreadsheet.
They already are indexed.
Mr. Chairman,
We just have to match it up.
Go ahead.
It doesn't-
it was explained to me, Jim brought a meter out and showed me, said that they can index them from the truck via the laptop. Every single meter needs to be checked, whether you think it is or not, it needs to be verified that it's properly indexed.
Basically an audit, basically an audit of all the meters.
They are every month when we read the meters. That's
We're finding the problem, so
somewhat
it
of
has
a
a.
byproduct. We have an issue with a few of them, but that's kind of a byproduct of reading meters. They're indexed every month. There's maybe about a few that have problems.
So every month, when you read a meter, you are auditing the fact that it is indexed correctly.
Correct.
Is there a record of that?
Yeah.
Through your Neptune program, yes.
So the 9 or 10 meters that you're discussing,
No, I'm talking to all of them.
I know, but the 9 or 10 that you're discussing that are off right now, that are causing a $70,000 loss roughly, was that my understanding?
No,
There's about 20,
There's 30 altogether.
Okay, whoa now, hold on here, gang. It was 9, now it's 30.
well, the 20 are 1-inch meters.
Okay.
They were dialed in at a wrong reading. It might have been that they had a Badger meter in there that it read as a 7 dial.
Okay,
And we went to the Neptunes, which they're an 8 dial. So that's where it was not dialed in right.
okay, so we've corrected those
We
20.
corrected those 20.
So we got 10 more to go, or 9 more to go.
Yeah, 9 more, which are our bigger meters, which are
4 inch.
usually anything over 1.5 inches and above.
Okay, and Neptune is the one working on a problem, working on solving the problem right now.
They should be. That's what was explained to Joey, and he was getting with his tech guys to figure out why it is not transferring over into this out.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to, instruct the manager to have all the meters, audited about indexing. Now, if that's happening anyway, I see no problem with doing that. They do it either month anyway, so let's vote on that motion. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Hochstetter? And chair votes yes, so,
It's
you're
being done.
doing it anyway, so, but I think the motion instructs that to continue to do
The
that.
next time you read it, you must be verifying the
Right.
index.
Yeah, I-
Now, question, the bigger meters, then they have to read them by hand then, I mean, eyesight, because they can't be recorded.
they still have, the instruction here is that they still have to be
No, but I mean,
indexed correctly.
those cannot be read just by going past them, they have to read them then, is that correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Cook, you were on old business?
I'm gonna hold, I've got numerous things, but I think I'm gonna hold for executive.
Okay. Any other old business? We'll diverge here again. What do you have?
I wanna know about what the heck is the board's mission statement on getting this water plant to work? And getting the infrastructure mapped. When is this gonna happen? And set a time so that I can go out and tell these people, when are y'all gonna do that? And like Gary said, he's got got all of those problems done. Well, here was the latest. The CCR that didn't get samples, didn't get done. And what's the board, how are y'all gonna stop this from happening? And I'm gonna put this, sorry, Chair, I'm gonna throw this, and I'd like y'all to read them, and you can look at all those red marks. It's consistently not sampling on time.
Which samples?
Okay.
It's all right there. That's what I mean. It's that's what I'm seeing on that CCR, Gary. And this is what I'm gonna show the customers. The trouble is I gotta get defensive, but at the same time say, this is how I'm gonna cure it.
Mr. Coulter, we've got to move on.
I'm sorry, but I do need to know what the mission statement is from the board.
That's a different kind of an issue we need to work on ourselves, so, yeah, yes, we're out of our order here, so. Okay, let's move on to,
New business, like I said, grader was one of the new things that was informative for what's going on with it. Other than that, nothing in my business. Somebody else.
so the new business part of that is just getting repaired.
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else? All right, let's move on to CCAAC. Mr. Cook, you want to make a motion to approve this construction?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve, 4624 East Jefferson, a shed. Myself and the chair drove by and viewed the stakes. We did not walk across the mud, but it was clear they were well within the, setback, distances.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote on approving 4624 East Jefferson. Mr. Hochstetler?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Okay. New construction approved.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion at this time to take action. We have 4 first letters, 3 third letters, and 1 unauthorized structure. Just for, I'll hold that for after we get into what? I'll stop the motion at that point.
Okay. I have a motion, or a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
May I speak?
Go ahead.
The unauthorized structure of a 40-foot container has been installed on the grade, as a shed. And this one in particular is bad because as a 40-footer, it exceeds the 200 square foot, so they are required by Pueblo County as well to have a building permit and foundation for that. Other than just the covenants that they did not apply for. The others are fairly simple, first letters, third letters. We've already sent letters, so it's just a continuance on the letters. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Let's vote on sending out 4 first letters, 3 third letters, and a letter about unauthorized structure. Now that letter about the unauthorized structure is in fact a first letter. Any discussion? Let's vote. Mr. Hochstetler?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Let's get those letters sent out.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion at this time to request from the board approval to have 1 survey done that's needed by the architectural in the Applewood area, and request the funding for said survey.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and second, discussion? The question, I guess, as discussion, this one is specifically, location, is the piece of property in Applewood on Applewood Drive that has the the motorhome sitting up on the hill behind it.
In the green belt, right?
Yes,
Sitting in the green
Sitting on
zone.
the green belt, right.
at least 90% of it.
Yeah. So, any questions, discussion? Let's vote. Mr. Cook, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Kraus?
Yes.
Ms. Hofstadter?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, let's get that money spent for the survey. Any correspondence?
Yes. Where's that?
Which one? On the letter?
Correspondence.
Correspondence, the only correspondence I got was from a lady that received one of the bills when we changed the dials. We had the correspondence with her. It was resolved between our billing and her, and that's why I didn't put it in the book, because it was a resolved.
It is correspondence. Do you have a
It was
copy of the
correspondence to the district manager.
letter? It was to the board as well.
Well, I didn't.
She
put it
called
in-
me to discuss it, and I told her I would make sure it was brought in front of the board.
Was that in Martin?
The name seems right.
But it was taken care of?
No, it's not taken care of. Her billing might be taken care of. Her concern has not been fully addressed.
Is Christie getting a letter?
Yeah, I don't know whether she had the letter or not.
He's working on
I think I gave it to her, and that's where it was. Okay, Colorado City Board of Directors, I'm sorry. This one was actually to Mr. Neil Elliott. I'm writing to the board to report that I have received a CCM bill Saturday, March 5th for the period of 1/25/2022 to 2/24/2022, stating water usage was 27,964. And the current reading is 30,938 to the amount of $238.43 due March 25th. I adamantly disagree with these readings, as I am the sole resident at my property and do not consume that much water. I am demanding that this be corrected and, if necessary, replace the meter for verification. Prior to paying my March 25th bill, I want proof the meter reading is correct. I also would like an explanation of why it is higher than my usual monthly bill has been for several years, certified in writing and delivered to me and copied the water board. I have always been cognizant of conservation of water throughout the year. I use hydrant shut-off timers on all outside hydrants during the summer, early fall months. My bill in the winter months usually is in the range of $71 to $73. I also spend $30 a month purchasing drinking water due to lack of quality drinking water. I have also purchased and had installed a whole house water filter system, which requires new filters for $110 at 6-month intervals. Now, nor have I ever been delinquent in paying my bill. I immediately upon returning to my home Saturday, March 5th, after having received this bill, turned the water shut-off valve to the shut-off position, went to the meter, removed the lid, and wrote down the reading of 10792605 and meter number Mach 10 R900I. I then walked the perimeter of my house and turned off each hydrant insulated protection cap and noted that all of the hydrants were completely dry and no visible signs of damage or leakage. I then returned the water shut-off valve back on and went into and opened 2 faucets at full stream and let them flow. I then changed clothes and emptied my utility closet in the garage to gain access to the trapdoor of the crawl space. I placed the ladder inside and proceeded to go down and inspect all the pipes as well as the areas where the hydrants are located. I found the crawl space to be completely dry with no signs of damage or leakage. I then exited and shut the trapdoor and put everything back into the utility closet before I shut off the faucets, giving the meter adequate time to register. Then I went back to the meter and observed the dial next to the flow area had not moved. So I took a photo of the flow number, then closed the lid, knowing I'd have to wait until Monday to go into the office. During the week, I washed a load of clothes, did dishes, and showered, etc. Before going to CCMD office, Monday, March 7th, I decided to open the lid, and the meter, again, the number still read the same as Saturday, March 5th at 107927 or 2605. I also started talking with several other families who said they had the same type of issue with an exorbitant bill. They also had to try to get to CCMD to do something only to have their bill reduced to about a little over double of what they normally pay. Then after numerous attempts to get satisfaction, they ended up in frustration and just paid their bill. They stated their bill the following month went back down to the normal charge in the winter. When I went to the office, I was waited on by District Manager James Eckert, and I told him what I did and what I found. He stated that this was happening to a lot of people that wasn't being charged the correct higher rate when he made a copy of the bill, and they would adjust it and let me know. I told him it best be looked into immediately, as I am on auto bill pay and I did not want $238.43 withdrawn from my account in there. We went back in, made a copy of my bill, and talked to the clerk, who stated she would take care of the account, auto pay, and if necessary, I could make payment arrangements. I then told her that there had better not be any need for payment arrangements. They assumed me would revise the bill and call me to let me know what their recalculations amount would be. Late that afternoon, I received a call stating that the adjusted amount would be $152.95, which is double of what I normally pay. I told the clerk that I did not intend to pay that bill, but would be back to the office to straighten this out prior to paying the bill. I found out from the water board meeting held Tuesday, March 8th, that the district between the CCMD billing department and management, that the billing department stated the meters are not being read correctly. So being reported to the water board, which verifies this issue. This was reported after I came in and stated my initial complaint. I now have talked with several more residents concerning this issue and to make them aware of what very well happened to them. My concerns are the Colorado City Water Board needs to do deep investigation into funds billed and funds collected and distribution of said gains to ongoing public water consumption and the water storage issues. If there needs to be a hiring process to obtain the quality of management to keep checks and balances system, then put it up to the public vote. I understand that $3.3 million has been secured through the American Rescue Plan Act through Pueblo County to help correct the ongoing water quality failures to be in compliance with state regulations. This should be, in my opinion, be the highest priority, not to be proposed until the next 3-year period for repair for this expired or worse. All of these funds, expenditures, and contracts amounts to go to Colorado City Water back in the state compliance should be made public as well. Working together in full disclosure is the only sure way that community not only survives but prospers for dedicated to come. Patrick Martin She lives on 3884 Lincoln Court, Colorado City.
Where's the court?
If I may.
Go ahead.
So, what exactly then did we find out then?
What it is with those dials, it was a 7, she had a meter that was a 7 dial. It was only reading 7 dials of it, which she was being charged, I don't know for how many years, 100 gallons a month instead of 1,000 gallons. With the new meters, it's an 8 dial, which as an 8 dial, it would read it as 1,000 gallons, not 100 gallons.
Okay, so 1,000 gallons of
So,
water is not 200 and some bucks.
no, so what happened is when we changed the dial, it went back to the original reading as to what we put in at 0, and it took the right amount, so it went all the way across the board as she used 20,000 gallons for that month, where she used it over the year.
Okay, so it auto-corrected for the entire year.
Yes, so that's why it went to the 250. So then when we went back, you have your different tiers, so that 20,000 gallons at tier 1, it actually takes it all the way to tier 3.
Okay,
So that price increased as it went through the tiers.
so I
So we went
understand.
back and looked, and
We went
on
back
Neptune,
billing adjustments, which changed that total, that's why we didn't really want it to go out, because that total wasn't correct. So we went back, matched everything from Neptune and what actually ran through the water for each month, and now the bill is actually less than the 200.
And she's still, and so her normal bill is gonna be about
it's,
150 bucks a month.
her normal bill will be at the 40, or at the $74, because that's your base rate, and she's not using over the 5,000.
And she's not using over the base rate, so why are we charging her more than the base rate this time?
For the water that she previously used, which we never accounted for.
And we believe this is correct because?
Yes, because,
Because we're matching it with Neptune software, they have the graphs of how much water ran through that meter every single month. We went back to the billing system and we corrected everything to match what actually went through.
Okay, so,
That meter's wrong.
yeah, so when I screw up in the store, and I do it routinely,
Mhm.
unfortunately, okay? The customer's the one that benefits, not me. And it was our screw up, it was not hers, correct? Did this customer do anything to cause these problems?
no,
No,
Okay, so, this is just one board member here, but this board member believes that we should eat that money, and we should bill her $74, and have a nice day. I yield.
would you like to do that on all accounts? Because if we do it for one, we're gonna do
I-
it for all.
I
But
would, yes.
So if you wanna make it in a motion, if it's that way with the board, then we can do that on that
Did you
decision.
have something else?
I do, but I yield to his motion.
No motion yet. There is no motion yet.
No, there's no motion yet. I'd like to hear your views before,
Well,
Or
when
if I
I
make a
heard
motion.
about it, I was quite upset, because you're right, in my shop, when I screw up, it's on me. I don't go back and charge them, well, I should have charged you this. That never happens in my shop ever.
Okay, so you'll come
The
in.
biggest problem I've got with this, and I'm gonna point at Aiden, but he is not the problem. He got caught up in the problem. There was no work order issued to go look and see what's going on. This was mostly handled inside. When I spoke to Aiden, he could not find a work order to go inspect the meter. A phone call, a letter, anything should trigger a work order instantly. So everybody's in the loop on the same problem. And I think because he comes in and picks up work orders, there should have been a work order from her first phone call saying, hey, there's a problem here. That's where I'm at on it. Yes, I agree with you on the billing, but work orders, you can't get anything done in a timely manner without them. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Before the motion, I guess I have a problem with our billing anyway, is that what we present on the bill is one number. That's the total number for that bill. Now, had she been on the bill, seeing that there was a cost of service charge, administrative fee basically, but a cost of service charge broken out from the gallons used charge, she probably would have noticed, she only used 200 gallons, that's wrong.
Well, and it does have a graph on it as to how much they use each month
But
as
I don't
to
think
that.
anybody looks
Okay,
at
and then
that.
also it has it broke out as water in the price of the water, and that's where it went to the
The
$194.
cost of water though includes the administrative fee. It doesn't break out the cost of.
No, it does.
It
It does.
doesn't show a base charge.
It does show your base charges, it shows usage of water amount, not the amount, but in your graph it shows the
But
amount.
not in the numbers.
But it shows the price of the water,
For that tier.
yeah.
Why can't we break it out where you charge $34 for administrative fee, for cost of service?
It does.
And then another $5 for cost of water.
I don't think it breaks it
No,
out.
it doesn't break it
break
completely.
No, it doesn't break it down.
Okay, I see.
So what
Okay, I'm
happens is
sorry.
that we're charging this basic fee for both water and sewer that includes both the cost of service and the cost of gallons used. If we have those broken out, you would notice if you were using excessive amount a month.
3,000 gallon limit as well.
Yes, then it would show up that how much what your cost for water usage is that much, not just the cost of water service, but the cost of water usage.
Can I make a comment? So the approach with these accounts, the bills were not supposed to go out. Because we have steps to
Okay.
do before we even get there, and even before a decision is made about whether we're going to bill them, how much, or, we weren't even there yet. So
Okay.
that
So
bill
it's not
accidentally
said
went
by-
out.
So, but there's a couple different issues here. The issue I'm bringing up is that can we change that bill?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Just a minute.
I don't
Can
know, that'd be Casell.
I can put a ticket in for Casal to see if they can.
I would
Right
like
now.
to see if that could be changed to where you actually have a charge for the number of
For the
gallons.
base rate
used.
and then for water.
Right. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
What I was gonna say is, we can direct it be changed, we know that. I think a review, I don't get the water bill, so somebody that gets them regularly needs to sit and go over them and say, this would look better if we had this information and this information. That would be a separate motion, but it's very doable
Yes.
of
So,
a rewrite of the
So-
bills.
so we have a motion. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion at this time that we forgive to all customers any backwater debts that were not due to their negligence or breakage in their equipment.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded.
Anything that was our negligence, like the meters, or breakage on the other side of the meter, obviously, okay, is not their problem, in my opinion.
We
And
have
that's basically what the motion is saying.
We have a motion to forgive the debt that was, the water debt that is not based on negligence by the customer.
Yes, anything that wasn't based, anything that wasn't their fault,
And a second.
And then make it easier on the bookkeepers
yes.
to do everything. You wouldn't have to go back and then get all the guff from these people.
Because if the
Yeah.
meters were reading incorrectly, that is not the fault of the customer.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so,
Yeah.
all right, discussion, we're in discussion for that. Motion on the floor to forgive debt of the customer for
Any customers,
incorrect,
any customers.
all customers, for incorrect water metering.
Like, it's about 70,000.
So this
Take
young,
it to zero,
no,
No.
forgive the excess debt,
The
sorry.
back line.
cause we had 29 meters that we changed the gallon numbers on. This lady here, her bill, actually, accidentally got sent out, and it was double walled.
Gotcha.
We were
We should
working
pay.
to check and see, we were pulling out the ones that were anomalies, this one wasn't. So we thought about the process of either saying, we'll eat half, you eat half, after we got it down to as, okay, this is what your bill is, we'll eat half of that water use, you eat half of it.
What the
Well,
motion
he's
is for,
saying that
for us to.
we wanted to stay
To
on
forgive
that.
it, to forgive the
And
debt.
go back to the original bill.
Other discussion? Let's vote. Mr. Cook, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Mr. Hofstadter?
Yes,
Okay.
makes it easier for you guys.
And you had a motion, Mr. Chairman?
No, not yet. I think that I think we need to discuss if we can change that, that bill to show those. And, if we can, then at a meeting, I'd like to make a motion to do
So we have
something.
to review what we can and what we can't do.
I would like to make a motion to instruct the manager to make sure that every phone call or correspondence generates a work order. Because when the public works doesn't know to go check something, and then you get the nasty grams and the mad phone calls to the board members. I know I post my numbers and some of you don't, but some of these people are quite irate when they can't get any response, and then when I ask an employee, what's the work order, and they don't have one, it's difficult.
Okay, so you made the motion.
Yes.
I have a second. I'll second.
Would you repeat your motion?
To instruct the manager to make sure that every phone call and every correspondence that's requiring assistance gets a work order.
And you've
I
seconded it,
second.
correct?
So discussion.
Tonight,
May I?
we knew that what that problem was. It was not an outside issue. It was within building, that we knew it was the problem. That's why there wasn't a work order put in that.
And it matched exactly to Neptune's usage, it was off the 1 digit.
Okay, what was your, Craig?
So, I'm all for us making sure things are done right, but even I'm thinking this is going a little bit too far. I mean, you're more than capable of handling this, I hope. So, my personal opinion on this is I think he understands, what happened here. I don't think we need to, and I hate using the word micromanage, but I don't think we need to go to this point, to manage every single thing that he does. I yield. Otherwise, why do we have a manager? We do the job ourselves.
Do we have a problem with work orders?
We haven't, sometimes they get lost, but we get them. It has done about 98%, which you're gonna have some that either get washed away or whatever, but, you know, that's, and she has a log as to what work orders are going out. She checks them when the work orders come back in, and then that's when we go, okay, where's this work order, where's that work order?
We have a control to make sure that we get them all
There's a
back.
log, it's monitored.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like Mr. Collins and the rest of the board to know, this isn't the first time when I've asked, has this been checked? Oh, I don't have a work order. Well, if I don't have a work order, I ain't going over there, is their attitude. Now, you're right, that most of the time, there are. I've come in here and he's got a handful of work orders. But when you skip one, that's when it gets rough at times.
Okay,
I
but we
yield.
have
I
a
think-
log that
yeah.
we monitor and we research if one is not.
So everything that
signed
goes
off on.
out, we log it, and Chrissy monitors it to make sure that we get it back and it was completed.
Okay,
We have a process in the office, if you watch it,
all right, so
it's,
let's,
it's all done.
let's vote. Mr. Hofstadter?
No,
Mr. Kraus?
No.
Mr. Collins?
No.
Chair votes no. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Motion fails. I guess maybe my word to the manager at this point is, let's just make sure we're correct about that. Okay, anything else? All right, motion for executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion at this time to enter executive session, statute 24-6-4024F of the CRS, discussion of manager, James Ecker, and finance department, Yvonne Barron.
No second.
Moved and seconded.
I have a question. Would I be invited to this session if it's a discussion about me?
No. Let's vote.
Can I have an open meeting then?
Yeah, I want to open meeting, if we're not gonna be in the meeting.
I just,
We
I'd
don't
like
know
to-
where that's going yet, but yes, if you want that, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Yes, if you want open meeting, then, it's not an evaluation, so as far as discussion, I don't know if we
I
can do
just
that.
don't know what it's about, so
If,
I would like to participate. I mean, I think anybody in my position would wanna do that, cause I don't know.
How did you explain it on there?
I removed one word, it's not an evaluation, when I made the motion.
Just kind of a workshop where you wanna discuss things.
It's a workshop where we want to discuss where the board wants to go
Without
with
public,
directions,
without public.
without,
So I guess along that.
we want to
line-
get on the same page to give both of you directions.
Well,
It is
Can
not
we
an
be-
evaluation of you.
can we be in the meeting?
We want to be able to, us board members want to be able to speak freely amongst ourselves, to come up with a good direction, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And we don't want it to turn into a big argument. That is the last thing we
I
want.
understand.
We
I
can
just
make-
haven't
we can
heard
make-
anything,
They're,
really communicate with the board for like maybe once or twice in the last year, so I really don't, understand, I guess. I'm unclear
Mr.
about it.
Chairman, may I respond?
Just give me.
no, I don't. If he wants to respond, go ahead.
We can make no decisions in the executive session. This is just a discussion, that's why I removed the word when I made the motion, evaluation. This is just a discussion of what we want from the two different departments. I don't know why the names were on there, my request was manager position and finance position. It wasn't a name.
Oh, we still
I understand there's two in there, and if we decide to speak to you, yes, you can have it in open meeting or in executive session. But what we're trying to do is see where each board member is at on what they expect of this position, without getting into the discussion too much at this point.
Okay, cause, I'm not sure if I can comment or not, but.
Mr. Chairman, if she would like to comment?
And
I mean, I basically have a job description and that's what I go by.
And I volunteered, I've asked the board to volunteer me, and I upgrade the job descriptions of every employee that we have. I go through all those and present them to you sometime. To see if
So, if I may,
Go ahead.
I think that you two are taking this the wrong way. I think the both of you are. This is not meant as a personal attack. This is not meant that we are disappointed or anything else in the job performance that either one of you are doing. Us board members, because we are guided by certain rules, can only discuss matters with each other when we are in a proper meeting. Okay? We can't go and have coffee together and discuss some of these problems. Executive session is a proper location for us to discuss issues that we want to see
Brought to the board.
a plan that we want to see continue with these two departments. Guidance, if you wish. We can get on the same page, and we have got a plan of attack to give to you two so that both of you, or your departments, I shouldn't say both of you, whoever's in your department understands what we are expecting of that department. And that's what we want to do, is get on the same.
I had 2 words, evaluation and discussion, and that's all I know. I'm not thinking any other way other than I'm curious to know what it was about. You have explained a little bit of it. But those were the only two words that I had, and my name on there.
Yes,
Right,
that
so-
was a misprint.
Okay.
That was, the motion was,
Correct.
yes.
So, I just have a question for this. So, with this discussion that you're gonna have, you'll come back to us with your plan
We
now?
don't know yet, we're just
We don't
having
Now,
a discussion.
then we can come back to the board and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
say,
Absolutely.
this is being done, this is being done, this
There's
is why
nothing
this
being
isn't done.
We can't do nothing in there.
We
I mean, as
can't
far
do
as-
anything. This
Well,
is just
well, we could even call them in after,
if we need.
Yeah, if we need
yeah.
to, we can call you in afterwards,
well, I think,
or during.
personally, I think when you deal with people, you need to get them involved in it, you have your discussion, do your things, and then have them come in and say, here's what we're thinking, and what do you think, and then go on and just
And
do
that
that.
could be,
And just sit,
absolutely,
because it's not gonna be a long meeting, I don't think.
no,
You can't, I'm going to be.
yeah, it's not gonna be long.
dictatorial. I am going to.
It's not gonna be long at all.
Hold
It's
it
just
tight.
an opportunity for us directors to bounce some ideas off of each other and set some, or we can't do it in there, but bounce some ideas off each other on getting guidance for those positions.
And then have them in before we come back.
And then either have them in before we can do it out here in public.
So
It
now
don't matter to me.
understand that it is correct, that you can, because we are specific to Jim Ecker and Von Baron. And because of that, in those two departments, you can demand open session. Now, we would prefer that you consider the fact that we want to be able to discuss, not evaluate, but just discuss issues of how we can help you in the future. But again, you can demand that.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, sir.
My feeling of what is gonna happen is, this will probably come as a surprise to you, but the board doesn't always agree on everything. I know you've never noticed that. And I think what my intent in being in there is Harry mentioned job descriptions. That's one of the things I wanna talk about. But I cannot imagine anything that I have a vote on that would deny either one of you an opportunity after we have a unified as we ever get front, then we want your opinions because you guys are the ones who actually do the jobs. It's more a collaboration of ideas.
So,
And I think there might be some misconceptions about a couple of things, just in my mind, just watching things, that I can maybe clear up some things if somebody has a different opinion or something.
And I also, Mr. Chairman, I have no hesitancy to say anything that I'll say in there
Yeah,
in front of either
I
one
don't
of
either.
them. But I do think it almost is because if it's open, it's open.
mhm.
Yeah.
Which I have no problem with you guys doing that. I don't know whether you want to, but I have no problem with doing that. And you guys go ahead and make your recommendations and whatever, but give it to us so that we have
can't
a,
even make that recommendation.
well, but what I'm saying, listen to me for a minute, that you give us your kind of what your observation is, or what your guidelines are, or whatever, to get back to us so we can have another executive session with both of us in it to reply or do what the board is saying.
I got no
Is that all right
problem
with
with
you?
No problem.
I got no problem with bringing you guys in after we talk during this executive
But I
session.
would rather have
Have
time
time
to, have time to mull it
Yeah,
over to
absolutely.
see what will work, what won't work,
I
and.
think,
So-
Jim, that's the plan.
I would agree with Jim,
Yeah.
but one of the reasons, I was concerned is that I don't have regular, interaction with the board. I report to Jim, I get my, assignments from Jim, priorities. So, of course, I was concerned, and with the limited information that I had, but I will agree with Jim's,
So, Yvonne,
recommendation.
let me respond to that a little bit. In our bylaws, and we have a copy of them tonight, in our bylaws, all agents, employees, attorneys, everybody that works for CCMD works for CCMD at the pleasure of the board. Now, that means that we have a responsibility as well as authority to deal with every employee for CCMD. What that does, that gives us responsibility, not just authority, but responsibility to assess. and
Yeah,
to
I'm well
talk
aware of
about
that, I read it in
and
the,
to deal with all of that.
And,
So,
and
we have
that,
that
this is
responsibility.
where we got the misconception on Friday, is you don't need to go any further, you are discussing personnel. And personnel, you cannot do it without them being there. And so, that's, the thing is
That's correct.
as in a discussion, and we agree on this discussion as to, you're going to set up whatever you think would be a recommendation or whatever, to give us the right to come back and give you
Yeah.
feedback on them
We need that,
recommendations.
we will need that.
I would want it no other way.
Yeah.
I myself
I think that's fair.
would want it no other way.
We'd be idiots to not ask you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
You need a vote on it.
we need to vote on executive session.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Kraus?
Yes.
Okay, let's go into executive.
Don't forget the recorder.
I close the regular meeting, to go to executive session.